Kravix stood in the landing bay of the Talarian flagship, watching the human transport ship dock. His 4 arms hung at his sides, claws tapping nervously against his thighs. In all his years as a soldier, he had never felt uncertain about meeting new allies. But humans were different. Everyone said so. The airlock hissed open. 5 humans walked out, carrying bags and weapons. They looked so small compared to the Talarians. So fragile, Kravix's species stood nearly 8 feet tall, with tough scales and natural armor. These humans barely reached 6 feet. Their skin looked soft. No claws. How did they survive in combat? The one in front stepped forward. He had dark hair and calm eyes. His uniform marked him as Captain Jin. "You must be Kravix," he said, extending one hand. Kravix stared at the hand. He had studied human customs. This was a greeting called a handshake. He wrapped one of his clawed hands around Jin's carefully, trying not to cut the soft skin. Jin's grip was firm, strong for such a small creature. "I am your liaison officer," Kravix said. "I will observe your unit and help coordinate with Talarian forces." Jin smiled. Kravix found the expression strange. Talarians did not bare their teeth unless threatening someone. "Good to have you with us. Let me introduce my team." He pointed to a woman with short black hair. "This is Lieutenant Hana, our medical officer." She nodded at Kravix, her face serious, but not unfriendly. "Sergeant Tay handles heavy weapons." A broad-shouldered man with a scar across his cheek raised his hand in greeting. "Corporal Yuna is our scout." A slim woman with quick eyes grinned at Kravix. She seemed excited, which confused him. They were here for war, not entertainment. "And Private Minho is our engineer." The youngest human, barely more than a juvenile by Talarian standards, gave a nervous wave. Kravix made a note in his digital pad. The humans seemed friendly, but undisciplined. They spoke casually with their captain. They smiled and joked as they walked to their assigned quarters. Talarian soldiers showed respect through silence and perfect posture. These humans acted like they were going on a vacation, not a military mission. Over the next few days, Kravix observed everything. He watched them prepare for deployment. What he saw disturbed him deeply. Humans did not meditate before combat like Talarians did. Instead, they gathered in their common area and talked. They laughed. They told stories. Kravix watched Tay and Minho argue about something called sports, their voices loud and animated. How could they focus on frivolous things when battle approached? Even stranger, they consumed stimulants. Coffee, they called it. A bitter liquid that made them more alert but also more jittery. Talarians would never poison themselves before combat. Clear minds won battles. During equipment inspection, Kravix noticed items that served no tactical purpose. Hana carried photographs in a sealed pocket of her uniform. When Kravix asked about them, she showed him pictures of 2 small humans. "My daughters," she said, her voice soft. "Unji is 7. Nari is 5. "Why do you carry these?" Kravix asked. "They add weight and provide no combat advantage." Hana looked at him with an expression he could not read. "They remind me why I'm fighting, what I'm protecting." Kravix did not understand. Talarians fought because it was their duty. They served the Empire because they were born to serve. Individual reasons seemed irrelevant. Minho carried a small stone with a hole through it. "My little brother gave it to me," he explained when Kravix questioned it. "For good luck." Luck. Another strange human concept. Success came from training and tactics, not from magic stones. The first combat simulation arrived. Kravix joined Jin's team in the virtual battlefield. The scenario was straightforward. Defend position Alpha against enemy assault. Standard tactics required holding defensive positions and using crossfire to eliminate targets efficiently. The simulation began. Talarian forces took their positions perfectly. Overlapping fields of fire. Maximum coverage with minimum exposure. Textbook execution. Then Jin gave an order that made Kravix's blood run cold. Yuna, flank left. Draw their fire. On it. Yuna replied cheerfully. She sprinted from cover, exposing herself to enemy weapons. Simulated bullets tore through the air around her. She dove and rolled, still grinning, and took position behind enemy lines. That is suicide, Kravix hissed to Jin. She will be killed. Jin watched his tactical display calmly. She knows what she's doing. Tay suddenly charged forward with his heavy weapon. He fired as he ran, hitting 3 targets before sliding into cover. Got their attention, Captain. Minho. Now. Jin ordered. The young engineer activated something on his pad. The enemy's defensive barriers overloaded and shut down. Yuna opened fire from behind. Tay pushed forward. Hana covered their advance with precise shots. In 3 minutes, the enemy position fell. The simulation ended with complete victory. 0 casualties. Kravix stared at the results. You achieved the objective, but your tactics violated every principle of safe combat doctrine. Your soldiers took unnecessary risks. Jin nodded. Maybe. But we won fast and nobody got hurt. Sometimes, unpredictable is better than perfect. That night, Kravix filed his first report to Commander Velthar. These beings operate outside acceptable risk parameters, he wrote. They rely on individual initiative rather than coordinated discipline. They form emotional attachments to each other that may compromise tactical decisions. They carry lucky charms and photographs instead of extra ammunition. Yet they succeed through sheer unpredictability. I do not understand them. I am not certain they understand themselves. The next morning, Kravix found Jin in the observation deck, drinking coffee and watching the stars. Can I ask you something? Kravix said. Sure. Why do your soldiers joke before combat? Why do they smile and laugh when death approaches? Jin took a long drink from his cup. Because we're scared. All of us. Every time. And if we don't laugh, we'll freeze up or panic. Humor helps us cope. Keeps us human. But fear should make you cautious. Make you follow proven tactics. Fear can do 2 things, Jin said. Paralyze you or push you forward. We choose to push forward. Together. He looked at Kravix with those calm eyes. You'll understand eventually. Jin said, Dustana Glan. Jin said we can, Kravix with Mar. Kravix wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that proper discipline eliminated fear. But then the alarm sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. A mechanical voice echoed through the corridors. Enemy forces detected. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Enemy forces. Enemy forces. Jin set down his coffee cup. His face changed. The relaxed expression vanished, replaced by sharp focus. Time to see what we can do, he said. Kravix felt his heart's race. Real combat. The humans would finally face actual danger. He would see if their reckless confidence survived when bullets became real and death became permanent. He followed Jin to the armory, where the team suited up. They still joked with each other, but their movements were quick and efficient now. Weapons checked. Armor sealed. Equipment verified. Yuna caught Kravix's eye and winked. Don't worry, big guy. We've got this. Kravix did not feel reassured. These small, fragile creatures, with their lucky stones and family photos, were about to face an enemy that had destroyed entire Talarian battalions. He feared he was about to witness their deaths. He had no idea what he was actually about to witness. The horror had not even begun. Research Station, Omega-7, appeared on the view screen. Surrounded by enemy ships, Kravix counted at least 20 hostile vessels against their combined force of 8. The mathematics were clear. They were outnumbered and outgunned. All forces, defensive formation Delta, Commander Velthar ordered over the communication channel. The Talarian ships moved into position smoothly, creating overlapping defensive zones. Perfect execution. Jin's voice came through the comm. Human forces, acknowledging. Moving to support positions. The battle began with missile exchanges. Space lit up, with explosions and weapons fire. Kravix stood on the bridge of Jin's transport, watching the tactical display. Both sides traded shots, shields flaring with each impact. "We need to land troops at the station," Velthar said. "They have research data we cannot allow the enemy to capture." "Understood," Jin replied. "My team will secure the main laboratory." Kravix felt his stomach's twist. Landing during active combat was dangerous. The transport shuttles would be vulnerable. "Captain, perhaps we should wait until the space battle concludes." Jin shook his head. "By then the enemy will have already taken the data. We go now." 6 shuttles launched from the Talarian flagship. 3 carried Talarian shock troops. 3 carried human teams. Enemy fighters immediately broke formation to intercept them. The shuttle shook as weapons fire hit the shields. Kravix gripped his seat, watching the shield strength drop. 70%. 60. 50. "Evasive maneuvers," the pilot called out. The shuttle twisted and dove. One enemy fighter exploded as a Talarian ship destroyed it. Another got through and strafed them with gunfire. Shield strength hit 30%. Then they were through. The shuttle slammed into the station's landing bay, scraping metal on metal. The doors opened before they even fully stopped. "Move! Move! Move!" Jin shouted. The humans ran out, weapons ready. Kravix followed, his own weapon drawn. The station's corridors were dark. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Somewhere in the distance, he heard gunfire. A Talarian squad leader contacted them. "We are pinned down at Junction 7. Heavy resistance. On our way," Jin said. He looked at his team. "Tay, take point. Yuna, watch our flanks. Hana, stay with Kravix in the middle. Minho, rear guard." They moved through the corridors quickly. Too quickly, Kravix thought. Proper tactical advance required careful checking of each corner, each doorway. But the humans just ran, trusting their scout to spot danger. Yuna held up a fist. Everyone stopped. She pointed ahead and made hand signals. Kravix's translator implant struggled to interpret. Enemy forces. Heavy weapons. Dug in. Jin nodded. Then, he did something that made Kravix question his sanity. "Switch to aggressive defense," he ordered. Before Kravix could ask what that meant, Tay sprinted forward. He fired his heavy weapon from the hip, not even in cover. Bullets sparked off the walls around him. One hit his shoulder armor, spinning him slightly. He corrected his stance and kept firing. "Is he insane?" Kravix shouted to Jin. "He's drawing their fire." Jin replied calmly. "Watch." While the enemy focused on Tay, Yuna appeared from a side corridor behind them. Her rifle barked short, controlled bursts. 3 enemies fell. The rest scattered. Tay took cover finally, breathing hard. Kravix saw blood on his armor. "You are wounded." "Just a scratch," Tay grunted. "Keep moving." They reached Junction 7, where Talarian soldiers crouched behind makeshift barriers. The squad leader's eyes widened when he saw them. "You should not have come. There are too many enemies ahead." "How many?" Jin asked. "At least 40. They have the corridor locked down with crossfire. We cannot advance without heavy casualties." Jin studied his tactical pad. "Minho, can you overload their barriers remotely?" The young engineer pulled out a device and started working. His hands shook slightly. Kravix noticed sweat on his forehead. The boy was terrified, yet he kept working. "I need 2 minutes, Minho said. "You have 1 minute, Jin replied. "They are about to push our position." Minho's hands moved faster. Kravix heard his breathing quicken. The young human was pushing himself beyond his limits. Enemy forces appeared at the far end of the corridor. Weapons fire erupted. A Talarian soldier next to Kravix took a hit and fell. Hana immediately crawled to him. exposing herself to enemy fire. "Get down!" Kravix shouted at her. She ignored him. Her hands moved over the wounded Talarian, injecting medicine, sealing wounds. Bullets hit the wall above her head. She did not even flinch. 30 seconds, Minho called out. Tay stood up with his heavy weapon. "I will hold this position." He started firing, his weapon roaring in the confined space. The enemy advance stopped as they took cover. Kravix saw more blood spreading across Tay's armor. Multiple wounds now. The human should be in shock, should be unconscious. Instead, he kept firing with mechanical precision. "Got it," Minho shouted. The enemy barriers flickered and died. "Yuna, go." The scout sprinted forward impossibly fast. She vaulted over debris, slid under enemy fire, and disappeared into a side passage. Seconds later, explosions erupted behind enemy lines. The enemy formation broke. Jin stood and advanced, firing calmly. The Talarian forces joined him. Together, they pushed the enemy back, but more enemies kept coming. Kravix realized they were not just defending. They were being pushed toward the laboratory by superior numbers. Talarian doctrine said to retreat when outnumbered 3-1. They were outnumbered 5-1 now. "We should pull back to the shuttles," the Talarian squad leader said to Jin. "Negative. We need that research data. We will be here." Jin looked at the Talarian, his face hard. "Then we die completing the mission. But we do not leave without trying." They fought corridor by corridor. Kravix lost track of time. His weapon ran hot from constant firing. Around him, humans took wounds that should have killed them but kept fighting. Hana treated injuries with one hand while firing her sidearm with the other. Minho rigged explosives from spare parts, his hands steady now despite his obvious fear. Tay finally collapsed. Kravix saw at least 7 bullet wounds in his armor. The big human lay on the ground, blood pooling around him. Hana ran to him. "No. Stay with me, Tay." "Still breathing," Tay mumbled. "Just resting." "You are not resting," Hana snapped. She pulled out an injector. "This is going to hurt." "Everything hurts," Tay said. Then he screamed as she injected him with something. His eyes went wide, his whole body tensed. Then he grabbed his weapon and stood up. "Okay, I am good now." Kravix stared in horror. "What did you give him?" "Combat stimulants," Hana said. "Adrenaline booster. Pain suppressant. He has maybe 20 minutes before he crashes hard. That could kill him. Staying here will definitely kill him. At least this way he can fight." They reached the laboratory finally. Yuna appeared from a ventilation shaft, dropping down beside them. "Enemies have the data core surrounded. Maybe 15 of them." "Minho?" Jin asked. The engineer nodded. He looked exhausted. His hands shook again. But he pulled out his equipment and started working on the door controls. The door opened. Enemy fire immediately poured through. A Talarian soldier fell, dead, instantly. Another screamed as a bullet hit his leg. Jin made a decision. "Cover me." He ran through the door before anyone could stop him. Kravix watched through the doorway as Jin moved between cover points, firing as he went. He was not trying to kill the enemies. He was making them focus on him. "Now!" Jin shouted. Tay burst through with his heavy weapon roaring. Yuna came from another entrance, firing rapidly. Hana dragged the wounded Talarian to safety while shooting with one hand. Minho grabbed Kravix. "Come on. We need to get that data." They ran into the laboratory together. The battle raged around them. Minho reached the data core and started the extraction process. 30 seconds, he said. An enemy soldier appeared behind them. Kravix turned to fire, but Minho was faster. The young human shot without hesitation. His earlier fear replaced by focused determination. The data core beeped. "Got it." "All forces, retreat to shuttles," Jin ordered. "We have the objective." They ran. Kravix helped carry a wounded Talarian. Beside him, Hana supported Tay, who could barely walk now. His stimulants wearing off, Yuna and Jin covered their retreat, firing backwards as they moved. They reached the landing bay. 2 shuttles were destroyed. They crammed everyone into the remaining 4. As they launched, enemy fire chased them. Kravix looked back at the station. Then he looked at the humans around him. They were covered in blood, some their own. They were wounded and exhausted, but they had succeeded. Tay finally passed out, Hana immediately working on his injuries. Minho clutched the data core like it was precious treasure. Yuna cleaned her weapons, her hands steady despite obvious pain from wounds she had not even mentioned. Jin sat with his eyes closed, breathing slowly. Kravix updated his journal with shaking hands. "They do not stop," he wrote. "I watched them take wounds that would incapacitate any Talarian. They injected themselves with dangerous chemicals to keep fighting. They exposed themselves to enemy fire to protect us. I do not understand how they do this. I do not understand why. This violates every principle of self-preservation. They should be dead. All of them should be dead. Yet they live. And they won. The pursuit of the enemy fleet led them into the dead system." Kravix watched the tactical displays as both Talarian and human ships followed their fleeing adversaries through the debris field of ancient planets. Then everything went wrong. Red warning lights flooded the bridge. Alarms screamed. The ship's main power flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in dim red light. "Spatial anomaly detected," the ship's computer announced. "Unknown energy field interfering with all systems. Main power offline. Navigation offline. Life support at 60%. And falling." Kravix felt his blood run cold. Across the communication channels, other ships reported the same problems. The entire fleet, both Talarian and human, was dead in space, floating helplessly in a system that was killing their technology. Commander Velthar's voice came through the emergency channel. "All Talarian personnel, enter hibernation pods immediately. Conserve oxygen and power until rescue arrives." It was standard procedure. When systems failed and rescue was uncertain, Talarians could enter a deep sleep that let them survive for months on minimal resources. Logical. Safe. Then Jin's voice cut through the channel. "Human forces, this is Captain Jin. Ignore that order. We are going to fix this." Kravix found Jin on the engineering deck. The captain stood with Minho and a dozen other human engineers, all staring at the dead reactor core. "You cannot fix this," Kravix said. "The anomaly is disrupting all advanced technology. We must wait for rescue." Jin looked at him. "Rescue from who? Every ship in the fleet is affected. If we wait, we all die when the air runs out. Then we hibernate and hope. Humans cannot hibernate like your species." Minho interrupted. He was already pulling panels off the wall, exposing damaged circuits. "We either fix the ship or we die. No other option." Kravix watched as the humans started working. They worked without stopping. Not for food, not for rest, just endless, mechanical labor. Hana organized medical teams to monitor everyone's oxygen consumption. She calculated how long they had before the air became too thin to breathe. 14 hours at current usage, she announced. "We need to rotate shifts in and out of low oxygen zones to stretch it to 24. "That is insane," Kravix protested. "Low oxygen will impair judgment and cause physical damage. It will keep us alive long enough to fix the problem," Hana replied. She pulled out her medical scanner. "I will monitor everyone. 10-minute rotations. Anyone who starts showing dangerous symptoms gets pulled to a higher oxygen area. I will monitor everyone. I will monitor everyone." Jin implemented what he called persistence protocol. Humans worked until they literally collapsed from exhaustion. Then the next shift would drag them to a rest area and continue the work. It was brutal, inefficient, completely illogical. It was also working. Kravix watched Minho work for 6 hours straight without a break. The young human's hands shook from exhaustion. His face was pale, but he kept rewiring systems, bypassing damaged circuits, creating solutions from spare parts. "You need to rest," Kravix told him. "I will rest when the reactor is online," Minho replied. His voice was hoarse. Or, "I will rest when I am dead." Either way, Tay worked in the engine room, where radiation levels were dangerous. Even with protective gear, he should not have stayed more than 30 minutes. He stayed for 3 hours. When Hana finally dragged him out, his skin was burned red, and he was coughing blood. She injected him with medicine, and he went right back in. "Stop this madness," Kravix grabbed Jin's arm. "Your people are killing themselves." Jin looked at him with bloodshot eyes. The captain had not slept in over 20 hours. "They are saving themselves. Saving all of us. This is what humans do. We fight. Against an enemy, yes, but this is physics. This is reality. You cannot fight reality. Watch us." The hours blurred together. Kravix tried to help, but his Talarian physiology was not built for this kind of sustained effort. He could work hard for short bursts, then needed long recovery periods. Humans just kept going. He watched Yuna work in the communications array, trying to repair the long-range transmitters. The space was cramped and poorly ventilated. Oxygen was thin there. She worked until she passed out from lack of air. Another human dragged her out, and a fresh one took her place without missing a beat. The ship's corridors filled with strange sounds. Humans sang while they worked. Old songs from their homeworld. Kravix did not understand the words, but the melodies were haunting. They sang to stay awake, to keep their spirits up, to remind themselves they were not alone. Commander Velthar contacted Jin. "This is suicide. Order your people into the hibernation pods before they all die." "Respectfully, Commander, no," Jin replied. "We have a plan. We can do this. You are working your crew to death. Better to die trying than to die waiting." Velthar went silent. Then, quietly, "I do not understand your species." "I know," Jin said. "That is okay. Just trust us." 20 hours into their efforts, Hana collapsed at her medical station. She had been monitoring everyone else's health while ignoring her own. Kravix found her unconscious on the floor, her medical scanner still clutched in her hand. He carried her to the rest area, where other exhausted humans lay recovering. He tried to wake her, but she was too far gone. Her body had simply shut down from exhaustion. Jin came to check on her. He looked terrible. His hands shook. His eyes were red and unfocused. But he knelt beside Hana and checked her vital signs. "She will live," he said. "She just needs rest." "You all need rest," Kravix shouted. "Look at you. You can barely stand. Your crew is falling apart. Tay has radiation poisoning. Minho has not eaten in 18 hours. Yuna has oxygen deprivation damage. And Hana just collapsed from exhaustion. This has to stop." Jin stood up slowly. "It will stop when we fix the ship. Not before. Why? Why do this? Why push yourselves to destruction?" Jin looked at him for a long moment. "Because giving up is not an option. Because there are Talarian soldiers on this ship who trusted us to keep them safe. Because if we quit, everyone dies. And because we are human, this is what we do." The reactor came back online at hour 23. Minho made the final connection with hands that could barely hold the tools. The reactor hummed to life. Power flowed through the ship. Lights came on. Life support systems activated fully. A ragged cheer went through the human crew. Then, most of them collapsed where they stood, finally allowing themselves to rest. But the work was not done. Navigation was still offline. Weapons systems were damaged. Communication arrays were barely functional. The ship could sustain life now, but it could not move or defend itself. Jin gave his crew 4 hours to sleep. Then he woke them, and they started again. Kravix could not believe it. 4 hours? They need days to recover. We do not have days, Jin said simply. The enemy is still out there. We are sitting targets. We need to be able to move and fight. More work, more endless hours of humans pushing past every reasonable limit. Yuna volunteered to go outside the ship in a damaged EVA suit to repair the external antenna array. The suit showed multiple breach warnings. The oxygen supply was compromised. Radiation shielding was at 50%. This is suicide, Kravix told her. You will die out there. She smiled at him. That strange human expression that showed teeth but meant friendliness. Maybe. But if I do not try, we definitely die. Better odds this way. He watched through the external cameras as she spacewalked for 6 hours. 6 hours in a failing suit. Exposed to radiation and vacuum. She worked methodically, replacing damaged components, rerouting connections. Kravix saw her movements get slower, saw her shake her head repeatedly, fighting unconsciousness. Yuna, come back inside, Jin ordered over the comm. Almost done, she replied. Her voice was slurred. Just one more. She finished the connection. The antenna array powered up. Then, she just floated there. Motionless. Yuna, Jin shouted. Respond. Silence. Tay suited up and went out after her. He grabbed her tethers and pulled her back to the airlock. When they got her inside and removed her helmet, she was barely breathing. Her skin was blue from oxygen deprivation. Hannah, still weak from her own collapse, worked on Yuna with desperate focus. She injected medicines, forced oxygen into her lungs, refused to give up even when Yuna's heart stopped. Come on, Hannah whispered, doing chest compressions. Come on, Yuna. Do not do this. Do not you dare leave us. Yuna's heart started again. She gasped, coughed, and opened her eyes. The first thing she said was, "Did the repairs hold?" The other humans laughed. Some of them cried. Kravix just stared in disbelief. 40 hours after entering the dead system, the human engineers got the ships moving again. Not at full power. Not with all systems operational. But moving. Able to navigate out of the anomaly field. The Talarians emerged from their hibernation pods to find the humans had saved them all. The human crew looked terrible, covered in burns and bruises, exhausted beyond measure. Several had injuries that would take weeks to heal. But they had won. Against impossible odds. Against physics itself. They had simply refused to accept defeat. Kravix updated his journal with trembling hands. They worked for over 40 hours with minimal rest. They entered toxic environments. They accepted dangerous levels of radiation. They breathed air too thin to sustain consciousness. One of them died, and they brought her back through sheer refusal to let her go. I watched Talarians sleeping peacefully while humans destroyed themselves to save us. They do not know the word impossible. They hear it and think it means difficult. This is their power. This is their horror. They will never quit. Never surrender. Never accept that something cannot be done. I am grateful to fight beside them. I am terrified of what they are capable of. The enemy command ship appeared on sensors 3 weeks later. Intelligence said the ship's commander directed the entire enemy war effort in this sector. Destroy this ship, and the enemy would lose coordination across dozens of systems. Every available ship joined the attack. Talarian battlecruisers, human destroyers, and support vessels formed the largest combined fleet Kravix had ever seen. This would be the decisive battle. It was a trap. The command ship was bait. As the combined fleet moved into attack position, enemy reinforcements appeared from every direction. Hundreds of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding them completely. All ships, evasive action, Commander Velthar ordered. But there was nowhere to evade to. The enemy had them in a perfect kill zone. The battle turned into chaos. Ships exploded on all sides. Kravix watched the tactical display turn red with friendly casualties. 3 Talarian cruisers destroyed in the first minute. 2 human destroyers gone in fireballs. Then the enemy boarded. Assault shuttles latched onto hulls and cut through. Enemy soldiers poured into ships, turning space combat into close quarters, fighting in corridors and rooms. Kravix's ship shuddered as enemies breached the lower decks. Alarms screamed. Jin grabbed his rifle and looked at his team. They were already gearing up, faces grim but determined. "Stay close," Jin told Kravix. "This is going to get bad." They met the enemy in the main corridor. The fighting was brutal. No room for tactics or strategy. Just desperate close-range combat. Kravix fired his weapon until it overheated, used his claws to tear at enemy soldiers, fought with a fury he did not know he possessed. Beside him, humans fought with terrifying efficiency. But Kravix saw something different in them now. Jin's usual calm was gone. His face was twisted in concentration and anger. When an enemy soldier shot a Talarian ally, Jin did not just return fire. He charged forward and killed the enemy with his bare hands, slamming him into the wall repeatedly. "Jin!" Kravix shouted, shocked by the violence. The captain looked at him. His eyes were different. Wild. Dangerous. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice cold. They pushed forward, reclaiming the corridor meter by meter. Kravix watched Tay take multiple hits, but keep fighting. The big human's face showed no pain, only focused rage. He fired with mechanical precision, each shot finding a target. Then Hana screamed. Kravix turned to see her fall. Blood spreading across her armor. An enemy soldier had shot her from a side passage. She collapsed, her rifle clattering away. Jin's reaction was instant and terrifying. He roared and charged at the enemy soldier with such fury that Kravix felt fear. Not fear of the enemy. Fear of Jin. The captain moved like a wild animal. He killed the soldier who shot Hana. Then he killed the 2 behind him. Then he kept killing, pushing into the side corridor, eliminating every enemy he could find. 17 soldiers died in less than 2 minutes. Kravix had never seen anything like it. Jin fought with no regard for his own safety. Bullets hit him. He ignored them. His armor was damaged. He did not care. He just kept moving forward, killing everything in his path until he reached the end of the corridor. Then he ran back to Hana and dropped to his knees beside her. His hands shook as he checked her wounds. The wild fury was gone, replaced by desperate fear. "Hana, stay with me," he said, his voice breaking. "Please, stay with me." She coughed blood but managed a weak smile. Minho appeared with a medical kit. His young face was pale with fear as he helped Jin stabilize her. They got her to a protected area, then returned to the fight. But Jin was different now. Kravix saw it. The captain's movements were sharper, more violent. He fought like he was trying to kill everything that existed. The battle raged for hours. Kravix's squad got separated from the main force. They were pinned down in a cargo bay, surrounded by enemies on 3 sides. The situation was hopeless. Talarian doctrine said to surrender when defeat was certain. Tay looked at the tactical situation and said 2 words. Not acceptable. He stood up with his heavy weapon and started firing. Just walked forward into enemy fire, his weapon roaring. Bullets hit him. He kept walking. His armor cracked. He kept walking. Blood ran from multiple wounds. He kept walking and firing. The enemies fell back, actually retreating from 1 human. Kravix could not believe it. They outnumbered Tay 20-1, but they were afraid of him. Yuna used the distraction to flank them from a ventilation shaft. She appeared behind enemy lines and started firing. Fast, precise shots. No wasted ammunition. No hesitation, but then she was grabbed. 3 enemy soldiers overpowered her and dragged her away. Kravix heard her fighting over the comm, heard her cursing and shouting. Then, silence. "They have Yuna," Minho said, his voice tight with fear. Jin's face went dark. "Where?" "Lower cargo bay. Heavy enemy presence. We are going after her." It was not a question or a suggestion. Jin stated it as fact. "Captain, we cannot," a Talarian officer protested. "That section is too heavily defended. We would need to abandon our position here. Strategic doctrine says—" Jin cut him off. "I do not care about strategic doctrine. They have one of mine. We are getting her back." He looked at his remaining team. Tay, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Minho, exhausted and terrified. Both nodded without hesitation. Kravix made a decision. "I am coming with you." They abandoned the defensible position and moved toward the lower cargo bay. It was suicide. Kravix knew it. The humans knew it. They went anyway. What followed was the most violent thing Kravix had ever witnessed. The humans did not use tactics. They did not use caution. They just attacked with pure, focused rage. Jin led the assault, firing as he ran. When his rifle ran empty, he used it as a club. When it broke, he used his sidearm. When that ran out, he used a knife. When the knife broke, he used his fists. Tay followed behind, his heavy weapon roaring until it overheated and seized up. Then he picked up an enemy weapon and kept firing. Then another. Then he just started using his armored fists to break anything in his path. Minho, the young engineer who had been so nervous, fought with cold precision. He threw grenades into enemy positions without hesitation, shot enemies at point-blank range. His fear had transformed into icy determination. Kravix fought beside them, caught up in their fury. He killed more enemies in that fight than in his entire career. He stopped thinking and just acted, following the humans' example. They reached the lower cargo bay. Yuna was tied to a support beam, beaten but alive. Enemy soldiers surrounded her. At least 30 of them. Jin did not slow down. He charged straight into them, screaming. The others followed. The enemy soldiers never had a chance. Humans fighting to save one of their own were unstoppable. Kravix untied Yuna while the humans cleared the room. She was hurt badly. Broken ribs, concussion, multiple cuts and bruises. But when she saw her teammates, she smiled. "Knew you would come," she said weakly. "Always," Jin replied. The fury was gone from his face now. Just relief and exhaustion. They fought their way back to friendly territory. The enemy did not even try to stop them anymore. Word had spread through enemy ranks about the humans who had slaughtered their way through defended positions to rescue one soldier. They were afraid. The battle ended hours later. The enemy fleet withdrew, taking heavy losses. The combined Talarian human fleet had won, but barely. Casualties were massive, on both sides. Kravix sat in the medical bay, watching human and Talarian wounded being treated. Hana was stable, recovering from surgery. Tay was unconscious, his body finally giving out after enduring impossible damage. Yuna was being monitored for internal bleeding. Minho sat in a corner, staring at nothing, processing what he had done. Jin found Kravix there. The captain's armor was cracked and burned. Blood covered him, both his own and others. He looked decades older than he had that morning. "Why?" Kravix asked him. "Why risk everything for one soldier? We could have lost the ship, lost the battle, all to save one person." Jin sat down heavily. "Because that is what makes us human. We fight for each other. Not for abstract concepts or cold strategy. For the person next to us. That is our strength. It is also madness." "Maybe," Jin agreed. "But it is our madness. And it is why we will never truly be defeated. Because even in the worst situation, we know someone will come for us. That gives us strength to keep fighting, keep surviving. Kravix thought about what he had seen. Humans fighting past every limit. Humans refusing to abandon each other. Humans transforming grief and fear into focused violence. I saw you lose control, Kravix said quietly. When Hana was shot, you were. Terrifying. Jin nodded slowly. We all have that inside us. That capacity for rage. Usually we control it. But when someone we care about is hurt, he trailed off. We become something else. Something dangerous. Your enemies fear you. Good, they should. Jin looked at him. Do we scare you? Kravix considered lying. Then, he decided on truth. Yes. You terrify me. I have fought wars for 20 years. I have faced death many times. But I have never seen anything like humans in combat. You do not just fight to win. You fight like you are trying to destroy reality itself. Only when we have to, Jin said. He stood up slowly, wincing from his wounds. Get some rest. This war is not over yet. Kravix watched him limp away to check on his team. He updated his journal with shaking hands. Today I witnessed what happens when humans break. When they are pushed past the point of reason and control. I saw them fight with a fury that made enemies flee in terror. I saw them abandon all tactical sense to rescue a single captured soldier. I saw them become monsters to protect each other. And I realized the truth. Humans are most dangerous not when they are fighting for victory, but when they are fighting for each other. That is when they become unstoppable. That is when they become truly terrifying. I am grateful they are our allies. I cannot imagine them as enemies. The war ended 3 months later. The enemy surrendered after losing their supply lines and key strategic positions. Kravix stood on the bridge of the Talarian flagship, watching the treaty signing on the main screen. It was over. Commander Velthar approached him. You have been assigned to compile the final report on human combat effectiveness. The High Command wants to know everything. Your observations, your analysis, your recommendations for future cooperation. Kravix nodded. He had known this was coming. He had months of combat data, recordings, and personal observations. Now, he had to make sense of it all. He spent weeks reviewing everything. He watched footage of humans in battle, read their medical reports, studied their casualty rates and success rates. The numbers told a strange story. Humans had higher injury rates than any other species in the combined fleet. They took more risks, exposed themselves to more danger, and sustained more wounds per soldier. By every logical measure, they should have been the least effective fighting force. Yet they had the highest mission success rate, the highest enemy casualty ratio, the most successful rescues of wounded allies, the fastest problem-solving under pressure. How could creatures so fragile be so effective? Kravix decided to talk to the humans themselves. He found Jin in the observation deck, looking at the stars. The captain had recovered from his physical wounds, but Kravix could see deeper scars. Jin's eyes held a distant look that had not been there before the war. How are you doing? Kravix asked. Jin smiled slightly. Still alive. That is something. I am writing my final report about humans in combat. Can I ask you questions? Sure. Kravix pulled out his datapad. In the battle where Hana was wounded, you killed 17 enemy soldiers in 2 minutes. How? Jin's face darkened at the memory. I do not remember much of it. I just remember seeing her fall, and something inside me broke. I stopped thinking. Just acted. You fought with extreme violence, beyond tactical necessity. Yes. When someone I care about is hurt, I become capable of terrible things. Jin looked at him. Most humans are like that. We can be gentle and kind, but threaten someone we love, and we become monsters. That is terrifying. It is supposed to be. Evolution made us that way. Made us willing to do anything to protect our tribe, our family, our friends. That instinct kept humanity alive when we were just primitive creatures fighting for survival. Kravix made notes. Then he asked, "During the Dead System incident, your crew worked for over 40 hours with minimal rest. How is that possible?" "Adrenaline, stubbornness, fear of dying." Jin shrugged. "We push ourselves because giving up means death. So we do not give up. But you push beyond safe biological limits. Safe limits are for when you have a choice. In that situation, we had no choice. So the limits did not matter." Kravix interviewed the others next. He found Hana in the medical section, training new staff. She moved a bit slower now, still recovering fully from her wounds. But her dedication had not diminished. "Why did you treat wounded soldiers while under fire?" he asked her. "You could have been killed." Because they needed help," she said simply. "And I am a doctor. That is what I do. But the risk was necessary. I could not live with myself if I let someone die because I was too scared to help them." He found Tay in the training room, working out despite his many scars. The big human still carried visible marks from radiation exposure and multiple gunshot wounds. "How did you keep fighting with so many injuries?" Kravix asked. Tay paused his exercise. "Pain is just information. It tells you that you are hurt, but it does not tell you to quit. That is a choice." He resumed his workout. "I chose not to quit." Yuna was harder to find. She was usually out on patrol or training exercises, never still for long. When Kravix finally caught her, she was cleaning her weapons. "You almost died during the spacewalk repair," he said. "Yet when you woke up, you only asked if the repairs held. Why?" She looked up from her work. "Because that is why I went out there, to fix the antenna. Whether I survived or not, I needed to know if the mission succeeded. The mission was more important than your life? The mission was everyone's life. If I failed, we all died. If I succeeded, we all lived. So yes, it was more important than just my life." Minho had changed the most. The nervous young engineer was gone, replaced by a confident technician. But Kravix saw shadows in his eyes that had not been there before. "You killed your first enemy during the defense of the research station," Kravix said. "How did that affect you?" Minho was quiet for a long time. "It was necessary. He would have killed you and me both. So I did what I had to do." He looked at Kravix. "I do not like that I can kill. Endon. But I accept that sometimes it is needed to protect others. That is part of being human too. Living with the terrible things we are capable of." Kravix compiled all this information. He wrote 3 separate reports. The official report was clinical and professional. It detailed human combat capabilities, recommended tactical integration strategies, and praised human effectiveness. It was everything the High Command wanted to hear. The classified report went deeper. It warned about human capacity for extreme violence. It noted their psychological warfare capabilities and their unpredictable behavior under stress. It recommended that humanity should remain as allies because having them as enemies would be catastrophic. The personal journal entry was his truth. He wrote, "I spent 6 months fighting beside humans. I watched them die and refused to stay dead. I saw them endure injuries that should have killed them. I witnessed them work for days without sleep. I watched them transform fear into fury and grief into strength. They are not the strongest species. They are not the smartest. They are not the most advanced. But they are the most terrifying. Because they have weaponized hope itself. Humans believe they can win even when winning is impossible. And somehow, they make reality bend to that belief. They do not accept limits. They do not accept defeat. They do not accept that something cannot be done. They just keep trying until either they succeed or they die. Usually, they succeed. But the true horror is not their refusal to give up. The true horror is what they make you feel. When you fight beside humans, they change you. They make you believe in impossible things. They make you push beyond your limits. They make you care about survival, not just for yourself, but for them. They infect you with their determination, their hope, their absolute refusal to surrender. I experienced true horror fighting beside humans. The horror is this: they will never give up. Ever. And they will make you believe that you cannot give up, either. They will make you run into enemy fire to protect them. They will make you work until you collapse because they are working beside you. They will make you care, whether they live or die. And once you care, once you truly see them as comrades and friends, you become like them. You become willing to do impossible things, to take irrational risks, to fight beyond reason. That is their weapon. Not their guns or ships or tactics. Their weapon is their absolute conviction that they will survive. They will protect each other. And they will win. And they make everyone around them believe it too. I pray we remain their allies. I cannot imagine them as enemies. Not because they would defeat us in battle, though they would, but because fighting against them would mean facing people who would never, ever stop coming for you. Who would turn every loss into motivation? Who would make weapons from scraps and hope from despair? Who would fight through injuries that would kill any other species? Who would rescue each other from impossible situations and never leave anyone behind? Humans are terrifying, not in spite of their weaknesses, but because of them. They know they are fragile. They know they are outmatched. They know the odds, and they fight anyway. They fight harder because of those things, not despite them. I am honored to have fought beside them. I am forever changed by knowing them. I will request permanent assignment to Human Liaison Corps because I have learned something from them. I have learned what it means to fight for something beyond duty, to care about the people beside you, to refuse defeat, even when defeat seems certain. They taught me hope. That is the true terror of humanity. They make you hope. Kravix submitted his reports to Commander Velthar. The commander read them in silence, then looked at him. You are requesting permanent human liaison assignment? Velthar asked. Yes, sir. Because of what you learned from them? Because of what they taught me, sir. About persistence. About courage. About fighting for others instead of just for duty. Velthar nodded slowly. I read your personal journal entry. I was not supposed to, but I did. You are right about them. They are terrifying. They are also necessary. The galaxy needs people who refuse to give up, who believe in impossible things, who make others believe too. He approved the assignment. Kravix found Jin one last time before the fleet disbanded. The captain was supervising the loading of equipment onto transport ships. His crew worked around him, joking and laughing as they always did. A new private had joined them, a young woman named Sora. She looked nervous, like Minho had been in the beginning. Training a replacement? Kravix asked. Jin smiled. Teaching her what we know. She will do fine. Humans always do. I am being assigned as permanent human liaison. I will be working with human forces from now on. Jin extended his hand for another handshake. Good. We could use someone who understands us. Even if you do think we are crazy. Kravix took the hand carefully. I do think you are crazy. But I also think you are the bravest beings I have ever met. Thank you for teaching me what it means to fight for something beyond myself. Thank you for fighting beside us, for trusting us, even when we did insane things. Kravix watched the humans finish their work and board their transport. Yuna waved goodbye. Tay gave him a salute. Hana smiled. Minho gave a thumbs up, a human gesture Kravix had learned meant approval. Jin was the last to board. Before he entered the transport, he turned back to Kravix. Remember what I told you. We fight for each other. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us strong. The transport doors closed. Kravix stood alone in the hangar, watching it depart. He touched the small stone in his pocket. Minho had given it to him. For luck, the young human had said. Kravix did not believe in luck. But he kept the stone anyway, because it reminded him of what he had learned. That sometimes hope and determination mattered more than logic and tactics. That caring about others made you stronger, not weaker. That humans had taught him what it truly meant to be a warrior. He walked to his new assignment with his head high. He had experienced true horror fighting beside humans. But he had also experienced true courage, true friendship, and true hope, and he would carry those lessons for the rest of his life.